Hey, what's going on, big ballers? It's your boy MJG and Joe the Birdman coming at you with yet another episode of the Fantasy Football Fumble with your host on Sports Minds. Welcome back for another episode, folks. We have a great show in store for you here today. First, we're going to talk about some waiver wire ads. Joe, what are some waiver wire ads we should be on the lookout for?
There's a couple that I wanted to mention just because they're two guys that we were talking about at the beginning of the season, and that's Kareem Hunt because he got a little more action last week. Not quite as much as Jerome Ford, but he was a lot more involved than he was in previous weeks. So there's a good chance he's on the waiver wire and you can grab him. And another guy that was in that same little discussion at the beginning of the season was Leonard Fournette, who allegedly has been talking to the Bills. I don't know how much he's been talking to them or what that means, but who knows, 3-4 weeks from now, he could be someone, if you've got the roster spot, that you just slide him in and play the waiting game if you can.
Oh yeah, definitely. Kareem Hunt, as you can see, Jerome Ford, that's a good pickup because Kareem Hunt, because it does look like a committee. They're going to be using them equally as much. I mean, one is not really that much better than the other, so I agree. If they're going to use them in tandem, especially if Deshaun Watson. We don't know what's going on over there, and the team did pretty well with PJ Walker over there. We remember him over at Carolina. He played pretty solid for those days there. So remains to be seen there.
Yeah.
Obviously, some updates on injuries, and obviously some other waiver wire pickups. If you're looking at some other guys, there's not really a lot of really guys on the wire. There might be some guys that someone might be dropping to pick up. A guy that was just signed by the Philadelphia Eagles, Julio Jones, right? He's someone that's on the lookout. He just got signed to the practice squad. But if you watch any of the Eagles games like I have, of course, they have been starving for a slot receiver. They haven't had any consistency there. And last year in Tampa Bay, Julio, when healthy, has shown that he could really soak up those targets. So even if he's getting 5 or 6 looks a game, he's a guy that could be a solid flex. But obviously, it remains to be seen how quickly can he pick up that playbook, right? And how much can he pick up that chemistry with Jalen Hurts? And will it be quick enough to actually make an impact on your fantasy season? I took a flyer in my league because I know the Eagles desperately need another guy on that offense. I mean, they're definitely struggling right now, especially with that play calling. So we'll see. Remains to be seen. But some other updates, notable injuries. Anthony Richardson for the Colts is out for the season. He just underwent season-ending shoulder surgery, so he's going to be out. So obviously
it was so fun watching him, man. That really sucks. And rookie year,
he was.
It's a shame.
And if you had him on your team, he was definitely a pretty solid starter. He was getting you 20 points a game.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
You're obviously not going to start Minshew, but what does that mean for Michael Pittman? That does mean a more solid fantasy floor. I mean, if you're getting Pittman now, he's getting about, he's been averaging about 28 games since Minshew's been out there. So that's pretty good. Josh Downs, also the rookie, he's getting about 10 to 15.
Has been
so he's also getting a solid floor.
Yeah, he's looked good as hell.
And what's going to happen in that backfield? With Jonathan Taylor now, is it going to be a constant committee? Is it going to be a split committee between Jonathan Taylor? Are they going to ease him back because of that, ankle surgery in the offseason? Zach Moss has been RB5, so, it's definitely a strong argument. Like, a lot of people think that he's just going to fall off, but this is a contract year. Zach Moss is in the final year of his rookie contract. He has everything to gain. This offseason, he walks. Who's going to pay the man? He's obviously shown he could catch the ball. He could run, he could run between the tackles. He's doing it all right now. So, any team that needs a running back, even if it's a 1 or 2 year contract, they're going to, pay him at the top of the market, right? So not the top, but at least, mid-range.
Mm-hmm. A lot more than he's making now. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Especially right now, right? I mean, who knows? Maybe this guy could move at the, one theory that I'm flying out there to a lot of guys as I'm shopping around, because I do have Zach Moss in 2 or 3 of my leagues. I'm trying to make some deals, of course, because I'm a wheeler and dealer.
All day.
I tell them, what if they shop him at the trade deadline? What if Jonathan Taylor comes back and he looks so good, the Colts are like, hey, we got to give this guy his 20 touches a game, and they say, hey, maybe a team that needs a running back bad, right? Like, let's say it is the Bills, and they decide, hey, we're willing to take him back. He knows the offense. We
Which
need
would
a
be
guy to
crazy.
make a
Yeah.
playoff run.
It'd be crazy,
Like,
but we've seen a lot weirder stuff. And the thing is, it wouldn't even surprise me. It seems, I don't know if it's just in my head or if I've been paying attention a little more closely in recent years, but it seems like the last few years, teams have been making these big trades a lot more than I'm used to seeing.
mm-hmm.
And so, a trade like that wouldn't surprise me at all, especially if, they're in a committee and he continues producing, but so is Jonathan Taylor. Then they do have that decision to make where they could just ride it out all season because that's a really strong committee. I mean, if it's not broken, don't fix it,
Yeah, and I think the Colts are kind of at this point where they're going to decide, are they going to, if they don't make a playoff run, a team could offer a 4th or 5th rounder for a guy in his last year. If they are making a playoff run, they could absorb that contract. It's cheap. It's the final year. Like, what risk do they have except for making that run? And at the end of the day, they just lost Damian Harris to a neck injury. He's probably not coming back this year. I mean, their other option is Latavius Murray. James Cook is a great back, but is he an in-between the tackles guy? Josh Allen just took a shoulder injury. I mean, what do they have to lose? At the end of the day. But not to get too off the rails here, right? Because
but it's all good
conspiracy
points.
theories 101,
all valid points. All valid points.
Yeah, they are. But some other guys coming back. Deontay Johnson's coming back this week. You're a Steelers guy, so he's coming back week 7. So, Matt Canada offense, we'll see how that progresses there. Will it help Pickens or will it hurt him? I know it does drop Calvin Austin in that pecking order, drops him back down to fantasy irrelevance, I think.
Yeah, he's irrelevant now, but it could definitely help Pickens too. But we'll see. I mean, Pickens' last game looked amazing, but that whole offense is broken. Matt Canada's a total loser. We should have gotten rid of him a couple years ago, but we're stuck with him at least for this year. So I'm hoping for the best. Steelers have a lot of improvements to make, but we'll see.
Well, I've been seeing some rumors in the last few weeks that Byron Leftwich has been trying to get hired as an offensive assistant.
Yeah, I would love that.
In the last couple of years because of his relationship to Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin. So imagine him getting hired as an offensive assistant, and then all of a sudden, they fire Matt Canada, and this guy just takes over temporary offensive coordinator duties, right? That would be,
and he's been proven
stuff.
He's done a great job before, so he could.
They ran him out of Tampa Bay, but I think he was a good coach.
But
some other notable updates: David Montgomery out for week to week. They still haven't updated the results on his rib injury. It was a rib cartilage injury, so it's week to week, right? So they're still a little bit
Kyron
cloudy
Williams
on
out.
that.
Yeah, and what do you think's going to happen with Jahmyr Gibbs? Because a lot of people were talking about the first time around when it was I think what did Montgomery go? He went out for like a week or something. I can't even remember what it was from, but he was out 1 week before where they were talking about
a thigh bruise.
And they were talking about Jahmyr
so he went
Gibbs
out early in the
season, role, and then Craig
he
Reynolds
missed
was going to come
1 week.
1 week, yeah.
Jahmyr Gibbs did have a lead role, and he did good. He had 80 yards on like 15 rushes, and he had like 2 receptions. They actually downgraded his passing role, so they didn't give his passing role to anybody, but they downgraded his passing role, gave him more of a rushing role, and he was efficient on the touches, but they didn't really give him a full workload like you thought he would or wanted to see if you were a fantasy owner of Jahmyr Gibbs. But he's been this is his second or third week he's dealing with a hamstring issue, or pretty much approaching the second week. So I want to see how he practices, because if you've had anybody with a hamstring issue, it could be an issue where it's been a couple weeks like Amon-Ra, or you can have an Aaron Jones where it's been 5 weeks of missed fantasy production. Because I have Aaron Jones 1 week and I've missed, a pretty good chunk of the season. I should have traded him after week 1 when he had that 24-point week, because I could have gotten maximum output, out of Aaron Jones and gotten.
He's going to come back and do that same thing. He's going to come back and do the same thing. So,
but I've had to make some moves in my fantasy season with Aaron Jones. A lot of people that have held on to him have lost a big percentage of their season. 5 games, a lot of missed time.
True.
And when you go through fantasy production, you kind of learn that. Obviously, you being someone that has Justin Jefferson, you've almost made that sacrifice where you had to trade him. So and
Yeah.
there's someone that I've seen in my league trade him. So you have to make that sacrifice, right? So
Yeah, I saw
and
Trey
people
get
have
to
to
him
make those
today.
moves. Yeah. So and that's someone had to make that in one of my leagues. But same thing, speaking of big trades, uh, CMC obviously it turns out is only day to day. He turns out to only have had a minor issue, like it apparently is a tissue issue. No pun intended, tissue issue, with the injury from Sunday. So he's apparently going to be playing this game. He's questionable. He's going to be on a limited workload all week, but he's supposed to be playing this Monday coming into the Monday night game. So that's good news for CMC owners.
Yeah, I hope that's all it is. I hope when they're saying day to day, they actually mean it, because you never know what to expect when they say that. But it sounds like they're saying good things about CMC. There's another guy that went down, and that's Kyron Williams. And so I'm not sure what to think about the Rams run game right now. But, Stafford's look great. They're probably just going to pass the ball a lot. I can't even remember the guy's name. Eric? But
So
if
I
you need a
saw that.
running back, you can pick him up.
No, I saw a lot of people pick him up, and he has like a projected, like obviously my leagues is higher, but like he's projected like double-digit points.
Yeah, 10, 12
My
points.
my outlook on that is just it's going to be a committee between two or three guys. Don't even waste your start on those guys. You're better off going with somebody else that has another team that maybe has a better projection. But if you have no options, obviously don't do it. But you're better off going with another committee at that point because the Rams, you never know who that guy is going to be. They
You
could have
might
signed
be
a guy off
better
the
off.
practice squad. Mm-hmm.
You might be better off playing someone like Craig Reynolds, where maybe Jahmyr Gibbs is a little bit limited, so they give him a few more
Yeah,
touches. I mean, I would.
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a bad spot to be in. But with as many injuries as there are with running backs right now, you might have to plug them in. Same thing with
Well,
Roshan
that's
Johnson and Deonta Foreman. You're not really sure what's going on with Roshan yet, so you don't want to
yeah.
drop Deonta Foreman if you got him. But he's, it's probably going to be
Yeah,
Roshan Johnson this weekend.
you're gonna play it to the last minute. Yeah, if Roshan's playing, that you're gonna play him because this is just a concussion, So you're gonna wait till last minute to make that start. But that's why Craig Reynolds is last minute too. If Jahmyr is playing, are you gonna play and Rashawn? And so some of those guys you definitely wait until last minute. And I saw that Myles Gaskin was also signed from the practice squad to the Rams. All right. So next segment over here, we're going to talk about some fantasy football offenses. I'm glad I don't have a piece of this year. And these are just dumpster fires that I'm glad I am able to avoid. And number one dumpster fire I think I'm able to avoid. I'm happy. Thank goodness I stayed away from. And that was the Broncos. Denver Broncos this year. I was not high on them. No offense to Broncos fans, but I didn't believe in your coach, and for good reason. I just didn't think it was the offensive line was there, and Russell Williams just did look cooked last year, and sure enough, I mean he's done. So, I'm glad I stayed away. Javonte Williams come back from an ACL, he's just not looking the same either. It takes about a year or two sometimes for guys to come back, and unfortunately, Jared Judy just isn't that guy either. He's just not built mentally. I mean, Steve Smith was able to expose it here. And, he talked a big game. He was really hyped up, and he made 3 receptions for 19 yards. So, unfortunately, that's some guys are just not built for the bright lights, and that's just what happens. So, what about you, Joe? What are some teams you're glad?
Totally agree with you with Broncos. Let's stay far away from them. Unfortunately, also my Steelers. I hope Deontay Johnson comes back and looks great. But Najee and Jalen Warren, they're not doing anything. You don't want them on your team. The only guy worth rostering and starting with confidence is George Pickens right now. And I really hope that changes. But that offense, defense is hit or miss, but the offense is just a miss. You can't feel confident with any of them except for George Pickens. So I'm staying far away from the Steelers in fantasy.
Yeah, definitely. A few other honorable mentions there. Ravens are streaky. I mean, obviously Zay Flowers, but you never know what uh, Jackson you're getting here. So, Lamar Jackson. So,
Yeah.
Giants, obviously Saquon, that's about it. Stay away from everybody
And
else.
Saquon's
Patriots,
having a
nobody
hard
on there.
time too. That's the offensive line is so bad. He's been having a hard time. I think he's going to be an automatic start rest of the season. But
Yeah.
um,
But
the
he's going to
Bears
slowly grind those points.
The Bears stay far away from them. You got injuries with the running back, quarterback. Unfortunately, that's going to affect DJ Moore now, and he was looking unbelievable. So that sucks.
Yeah.
The Titans.
I was thinking about selling high on him, DJ Moore.
I'll take him. I'll take him.
But I don't know. I'm still on the fence about it.
But the Titans, I'd stay away from them too. Derrick Henry's not the same Derrick Henry, but he's still consistent enough where you start him. But DeAndre Hopkins isn't doing it. Tannehill sucks. Any others that you feel like you should mention?
Well, talk about the Titans. You're right. They're going to get behind. It's going to be a small. I noticed Derrick Henry's numbers when the games are close, he's getting 20 touches. When they're blowouts, he's only getting teens, like 12 to 13.
Yeah.
And I've seen that 13, 20, 13, 20. So that's how the games have been going. I'm hoping they give that Will Levis a shot. Like Malik Willis is just very one-dimensional. He's definitely not getting them anywhere in games. I'm hoping that next game you actually get to see the rookie play because maybe he has that big arm they're looking for and they could keep him in. Like this whole bye week, hopefully they prep him to start and Tannehill doesn't play because maybe that gives Henry some value there. But outside of that, there's really the only other team I'm glad I'm not a part of. Maybe Cardinals. I have Marquise Brown. I mean, that guy's a target hog. He's getting 10 or 11 looks a game. Are they the most accurate? Not really. I mean, it's Dobbs, but they're not the most accurate. But he's still getting a consistent workload. So he's somebody I would still start. He's a sneaky good play and. I'm not a DFS guy by any means. I'm not very good at that, but I noticed he has a really cheap price point on him. So if I'm going for targets and volume, he's a guy that's getting 10 and 12 looks a game. I mean, at that price point, it's really good buy.
Absolutely. And one more, you might have mentioned in the Patriots, though. That's another team that you want to stay far away from. I don't know what happened to Ramondre, but he's underperforming.
Well, once they got Zeke. I didn't want him anymore. Once they got Zeke, and you know what? Looking at hindsight 2020, if they didn't have Zeke and I invested in that team and that team ended up, being what they are this year, I am so glad that they got Zeke because I was high on Ramondre this year.
A lot of people.
I would have been so regretful that Bill O'Brien would have been so disappointing this year because he's been a good offensive coordinator for the Texans and the Patriots in the past, and he just is not the same guy. Like that team is just garbage offensively. Like stay far away from them.
Yeah, it's hard to understand. Remember the first couple of weeks, Hunter Henry looked great, and then Mac Jones, my God.
Yeah, regression. That guy regressed, man. Like he's not gonna be starting next year on any team. He's gonna be Sam Darnold 2.0. Like that guy is just gonna be like taking up somebody's bench spot, fighting for that bench. Welcome back, big ballers. Now it's time to talk about this week's hot matchups of the week. Joe, what is your first hot matchup here of the week?
My first hot matchup is probably obvious. It's the Chiefs versus the Chargers. I think just saying those two names, speaks volumes. Eckler's back. Herbert's an animal. Keenan Allen's an animal. You still got Josh Palmer in the mix. So, really, I just see a high-scoring game because we all know what the Chargers can do. And then the Chiefs got Mahomes, Kelsey, Pacheco's even looking good. And the defense for Chargers is terrible. And the defense for the Chiefs has been pretty good, actually, but they're not going to stop the Chargers. So I see a good back-and-forth shootout that's going to be really high-scoring.
Yeah, and it is a division game, so they always play each other pretty well. I mean, I don't know if you remember the last time they played each other, but one of those, or the last year they played each other, that was that historical game where Kelsey tried to jump over Derwin James's head and he caught him in the air and body slammed him. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was like the
Now,
first game of the year.
now I
So that
remember.
was that historical picture. That was the first game. But then also the next game, that's where Kelsey had those 3 touchdowns against the Chargers. So it's a really good game for Kelsey. So if you're looking for a nice little stack, you always start Kelsey against that Chargers defense because he just gets fired up. And you're right, man. That Mahomes Kelsey lineup is really nice. I know for Chiefs wide receivers, go throw a dart and see who's going to be the guy that really scores because they just really rotate that. So I wouldn't even be able to tell you, but you're right. I mean,
Rasheed Rice has been
Pacheco's looks
somewhat
good.
consistent. But then,
Yeah, he's getting his looks.
Kadarius Toney got a touchdown last week. So, yeah, you never know. Never know.
Rasheed is getting about 6 looks a game, so he's probably been their most consistent target as far as like looks. He's not getting all the good goal line looks. He's got a few touchdowns already for the season, like 2 or 3, but he's definitely getting at least 6.5 looks a game. So he's their most consistent look there. On the other side, obviously Chargers. Josh Palmer is just getting peppered with targets. Keenan Allen, obviously, like one of the league leader in targets. He's having a resurgence year. You know, Eckler was really underutilized, but that's because the Cowboys have a really good pass or rush defense. You know, they're number 1 in the league, actually top 3 in the league because the Eagles are number 1. Excuse me.
So
here, but yeah, it's gonna be a good high-powered offenses going against each other. I'm excited to see that for sure.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's going to be 2 teams, 2 really good offenses playing really hard. Obviously, every Sunday they do, but like you said, the divisional matchups they always mean a little bit more.
Yeah, and Eckler needs that bounce back game, so I can see that being high scoring.
He's got it. So who's your first hot matchup?
First half matchup. I'm actually gonna save the better one for last. Actually, no. I'm just gonna start off because people already know.
Yeah,
they know what I represent. So there we go. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, guys. Dolphins versus Eagles. You already know it's gonna be the highest scoring game of the week. I mean, the highest offense. Like Dolphins are the highest scoring offense in the league right now. I'm not even gonna lie to people. They are just explosive. They have the most brilliant offensive mind in the league. It's actually scary. I'm scared to go against them because they're just going to score touchdowns in bunches. My secondary is depleted. I've been saying this for weeks. We have basically we gotta sign Vince Papale and put him back there from Invincible. Mark Wahlberg's gonna be back there playing quarterback for us. That's Vince Papale. That's how screwed we are, right? We are just getting cooked in the secondary. So now you got Tyreek Hill. He's going to have a remarkable day.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to be dangerous. I mean, anybody back there. So the problem is the Eagles have been, I know we lost last week, first loss of the season. Hurts through 3 turnovers, excuse me. But Miami secondary hasn't looked great unless they're getting Jalen Ramsey back this week. Eagles have to match that up. They don't have anybody to stop A.J. Brown. So that's going to be A.J. Brown's show. Devontae Smith has been quiet. So that's going to be the Devontae Smith show. So it's going to be back and forth. They're going to go at it. DeAndre Swift has been a resurgence here. He's looked phenomenal. So we're going to be lighting each other up. And the best man win.
And, like you said, you got 2 high-powered receivers on Philly. And then you got Waddle looking amazing next to Tyreek, too. So, or at least consistent. He hasn't been.
Yeah, he's had one good game this last week. It was his first good game of the season. Everything else has been solid.
Yeah, he's still getting targets. And I think
he had
with Tua, Tua and him finding that rhythm, he'll be fine.
Well, their more phenomenal receiver has been Raheem Mostert out of the backfield. He had 2 touchdowns. He had 2 rushing last week, and he had 1 receiving. So he's been the one. He scored 11 touchdowns this year. He's the NFL's leading scorer. So that's the guy that's really been killing it for the Dolphins this year, him and Tyreek. So that's the ones we got to really be on the lookout for. And then Waddle is in the middle over there killing it. But so it's gonna be going at it. So I think we have equal weapons on there. But obviously, there's no one like Tyreek on our side, and there's no one like AJ on their side. So it's just gonna be the best man win.
That's going to be fun to watch. It's probably Probably, like you said, going to be the highest scoring game of the week. And my second hot matchup of the week is probably a game that many people will disagree with me on, but hear me out. It's the Lions versus the Ravens. I know both teams like to run the ball, and both teams have a pretty solid run defense, too. I mean, high level run defense for both. And I'm aware of that. But that kind of leads me into thinking that, all right, you're without David Montgomery, huge piece of the offense, but they got Jahmyr Gibbs, and he's coming back from an injury. So maybe they don't want to just, lean on him the way they lean on Montgomery. So they're going to throw the ball. Goff has been playing awesome. He's going to throw it to Laporta. He's going to throw it to Amon-Ra. And then he's got Josh Reynolds in the mix too. So you've got those three on that side of the ball. And then, Lamar's not going to be able to run as much against Detroit as he would a normal team. But he can throw it to Zay Flowers. He can throw to Mark Andrews. And if this is a close game, which I assume it will be, you've got two great teams, surprising everybody with the Lions are 5-1. The Ravens are 4-2. They're going to be playing hard. They're going to be playing mean football. If it turns into a back and forth game and they're relying on the pass, then that could be a high scoring affair that a lot of people think is just going to be a defensive battle. So I understand it could be a defensive battle, but it could also go the other way. And if it goes the other way, it'll be a high-scoring affair, and it'll be a really fun thing to watch.
Yeah, they are very explosive teams. You're right. One big play could blow up the whole thing. And also, I don't know if the Lions have are very high rank have a high ranked defense against the tight ends. So you're right. Mark Andrews could bust a big play against them. And they are going to have to air it out because if they don't have Montgomery and they have to air it out more often, it could be some big plays for sure. So that could be a fun game for sure. And I have some pretty big shares in both. Definitely.
Yeah, and I do too. So maybe that's my heart talking, but it could definitely go that direction. If it starts off hot, it's just going to keep going. Who's your second?
Sure, I hope so.
Who's your second hot matchup of the week?
For me here, I went with the 49ers versus the Vikings, and this is only because there's so many bye weeks right now that there's really slim pickings. The reason why, I think that CMC is coming back. It was as I said, a soft tissue issue for CMC, so not really something serious tissue issue. So he should be back. Vikings, obviously, Kirk Cousins is going to have to air it out. So the way the 49ers have been running their offense, they just want to beat the brakes off you early, and they're like relentless, and they just want to just like pulverize you and just like suffocate the life out of you till like the fourth quarter. Like they're very relentless in their approach. I love it. Like it's really relentless football. That's how you play. So So I think, and the Vikings are going to have to throw it early, and they're going to have to come back. So when the Eagles did that to them, they actually kept throwing to the fourth quarter. They made it seem like the game was closer than it was. They actually scored like, I think 2 or 3 touchdowns in like the second half. So they actually try to make a comeback. So they're going to have to air the ball out, and maybe you might see some touchdowns to some of the younger guys out there. They have Jordan Addison. They have some of the young receivers out there. Maybe Alexander Madison. But if they're going to score, it has to be through the air because that's, San Francisco's weak point or weaker point. That's how Cleveland was able to expose them a little bit. But Cleveland did wear them down over time with the run game. They kept giving them a healthy dose of, Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt. So, obviously, and they just kept rushing them. But obviously, Vikings don't have that kind of personnel. So remains to be seen. But that's what I think. I think 49ers are just going to come up on them early, and then Vikings have to pour it on in the second half.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if it goes another way. And Kirk Cousins is going to, he's going to get some points in the fourth quarter. Might be with Jordan Addison. It might be with KJ Osborne. Could be with Madison. Who knows? But he's going to be throwing the ball. There's no doubt about that. So he's going to be trying to catch up. And, on the other side, I don't know if Debo's playing. But Ayuk will be in there. Debo will probably be in there. Kittle, CMC. I mean, they got it covered. So it's going to be probably a slaughter. for the first 2 or 3 quarters, and then a lot of catch up in the fourth. That could definitely turn into a high-scoring game. Oh, man, it's cold in here. It's time for our cold call of the week. Who's your cold call of the week, Manny?
My cold call of the week is the Fudge Packers versus the Broncos.
Stay away from those Fudge Packers, man.
I mean, we already talked about we're glad we don't have the a share of the Broncos, man. But I like the Packers, man. I think they have a good young team, some good young players on there. I have shares of Aaron Jones, or one share of Aaron Jones, and I just think that game is going to have a lot of lack of execution. It's going to be a ugly grind fest, and I just think that both teams are just going to not really do much. So who knows? Maybe I could be pleasantly disappointed and have a really big game for Aaron Jones, but regardless, I'm going to start him. So and see what happens.
Yeah, no, I think you have to start Aaron Jones regardless. It could be a bad game that he has, a decent showing, but generally speaking, I'd stay away from it too. But I think Aaron Jones is going to come back strong. I don't know if it's going to be this week, but generally speaking, he's going to come back strong and put up huge numbers. I don't see any way around that. But this week, he might still be just kind of easing back into full speed, 100%. But regardless, that game in general, I agree with you. It's probably going to be a little bit messy. And for my cold call of the week, I've got the Raiders versus the Bears. And I think everyone knows why. It's just going to be a sloppy, nasty game. Both teams are struggling on offense, and now the Bears are down a quarterback and a running back. And, I know that the offenses are terrible, and the defense is mostly terrible. The Chicago defense has been bad. The Raiders, the last couple weeks have been bad. The Raiders, the last couple weeks have been good, but before that, they were playing really bad. Either way, I mean, the Raiders might be a sneaky play as a defense, but generally speaking, just because they've got bad defenses, it doesn't just mean that the guys on offense are going to produce. When the offense isn't in sync, like the Raiders seem completely out of sync. I'm not sure what's going on with Devontae Adams, but the last 2 games for him have been a bust. Jacoby Myers, I would start. I mean, I'm going to start Devontae no matter what. But I'm just saying he's been a little shaky, and Jacoby Myers has been consistent. But altogether, it's just a game that I would stay far away from on the Broncos side. You can't play anybody. I wouldn't even be comfortable starting DJ Moore. You might start Roschon if you really need a running back. But like I said, the defense for the Raiders has been okay recently, so they might just smother him. And they're not going to be, you can't play Cole Kmet or DJ Moore with confidence. I'm not even sure who's going to be playing quarterback. But then on the other side of the ball, here's what I think is going to happen. The Raiders are going to go up early, and then they're just going to grind them out. So it's going to be a really slow game. It's going to be a low-scoring, slow grind. And I'm sure Josh Jacobs is going to get the volume where he's going to be a rock-solid play this week. But aside from Josh Jacobs and Jacoby Myers, and again, Devontae just by default, there's no one on the Broncos I would play. And those are the only 3 guys on the Raiders I would play. And I don't have a lot of confidence in any of them except for Josh Jacobs and Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, Bears versus Raiders. I sold my shares of the Raiders long ago, and I know I told people buy low on Jacobs, and I didn't really. I changed my tune to a certain effect, saying that Jacobs will get you the points, but it's going to be ugly. He's going to chip away at it, and he's the only one in the offense that's going to consistently get that for you. Everyone else, I sold my share of Devontae Adams, and I'm glad I did because I've been able to flip that into what I think has been a nice haul for me. But yeah, I stay away from the Raiders. I do have a couple shares of DJ Moore, and I think I'm going to hold on to him. I think when Justin Fields comes back, because it's not a long-term injury, I think it
Yeah.
could be beneficial for me because they shown some good chemistry. But obviously, like you said, it's going to be a grind fest this Sunday, and I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a slow, nasty game. But yeah, and I didn't mean like trade DJ Moore at all. I'm just saying this week is bad. I would gladly take him if you want to get rid of him.
All right, boys and girls, get your mud pies out. It's time for the shit call of the week. All right, Joe, what's your shit call today?
I'll tell you what, there was a lot of shit getting flung around last week. It was a really bad week for football. A lot of low-scoring games. And I missed the mark when I said there was going to be a hot matchup between the Lions and the Buccaneers because it was ice cold. The final score was 20-6, 26 total points. I expected a shootout, and it just didn't happen. So, hard to predict fantasy football. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it stressful. But I thought that game was going to be like 50 plus. Cut that number in half. That was a shit call. How about you, Manny? What was your stinking ass shit call of the week?
Yeah, so I did. I picked the Seattle versus Bengals to be a hot matchup last week because I figured, two high scoring offenses, even though they had solid defenses, I was like, hey, they got to get their stuff together. They got to, make it happen. The week before, Jamar Chase had the 3 touchdown game. Hey, they're gonna go at each other. And they did, and then the final score ended up being Seattle 13, Bengals 17. Bengals ended up winning. But, yeah, they were just really grinding each other out, and they finally started really clicking the second half of the game. They started moving the balls, but then they really started, playing defense on each other second half again. So it was a good game. If you watched it, it was a great game. They were really going at each other's throats and really answering each other and making big stops when they needed to. But it wasn't as high scoring as we thought it would. So unfortunately, that was my shit call of the week.
Yeah, I expected that to be very high scoring too. I remember I was expecting big things from the entire offense. The Cincinnati offense just didn't really come together. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Big Balls Call of the Week. What's your Big Balls call, Manny?
All right. My Big Balls call is this. Jahmyr Gibbs plays this week. He gets a full workload, ladies and gentlemen, and he gets his first 100-yard rushing game of the season, and he gets 20 touches for 100 yards and a touchdown. And if you've seen his touches this year, that I know that doesn't sound crazy, but that would be crazy according to his production. So that's my Big Balls call of the week.
Man, I hope you're right.
You, Joe?
I really hope you're right. My Big Balls call of the week, which again might not be a Big Balls call because he's done it before, but I think Kenneth Walker is going to have 2 rushing touchdowns on Sunday. He's already done it twice. So, again, it's not that huge of a call. But, you're looking at the game. You got on Seattle, you got everyone back to full speed. You got Geno, Metcalf, Lockett, and Kenneth Walker. So you're going to be, in my opinion, when you have a nice, well-rounded offense, generally speaking, it works better for everyone. I don't like drafting those players that are like the only good player on their team because, if they have a shit game, that might hurt them. So it's usually better even if they spread the ball around a little more. But I think he's going to get plenty of volume. And the Arizona defense isn't good against the run or the pass. So it could be a high-scoring affair. If it's a high-scoring game, that means they're going to be in the red zone a lot, maybe get some goal line carries, and that's his bread and butter. So I could easily see that happening. 2 touchdowns for Kenneth Walker.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us yet again for another awesome week of Fantasy Fumble. We appreciate all the support. We do love you guys. I mean, this is awesome. We're living out the dream right now, guys. We're doing what we love. We're talking football. You guys are following us. I mean, we're giving out good advice. You guys are winning your leagues. We're winning. Some of us are winning.
We're giving out great advice. You know, I am first place in one league, and I'm also last place in another. That's just the name of the game.
You can't win them all.
You can't win them all.
You know what? And it's all about draft position, you know, because you could give out good advice. You know what players you want. Doesn't mean you get your players when it comes to the picks, right? It's all about how they fall in that draft.
And it's all about making moves, too. You know, that one league where I told you I got Justin Jefferson, A-Chain, and James Conner on IR. And Kyron Williams is out, too, now. So just kicked me in the teeth.
Yeah. Man, but you know what? You're still 2-4. You're still alive, man. You pull a win off this week. You're 3-4.
Yeah,
you're
who knows?
Literally one more week away from getting at least one of those guys back, and then you're another win away from getting two of those guys back, and then
yeah, it's the name of the game.
Staying alive another week.
You got to make moves at this time. If you are 2-4 like I am, make some moves. Stay in the game. You know, why not? You can't give up. But we're going to take a break from the player profiles this week just to regroup and get some other things together. But we will get back to it next week. And again, if you've got any that you'd like to see, just throw a comment down below and let us know what player you'd like us to cover, and we will cover them.
Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for all the support. You guys take care. We'll be here same time, same place. Thank you all for the love and support. Take care, guys, and we'll see you here next time. All right.
Peace.
See you guys.